Hello everyone, today I wanted to review a GD level. In this case we're talking about HBFS by Jenkins, which is his new level with the song Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger by Daft Punk. I saw that this was getting a lot of unconstructive criticism, so I kind of wanted to make my own review and just break it down into all the parts and give my opinions. Each part will be judged in terms of gameplay and decoration, so I'm not just gonna judge the deco, I'm also gonna try to give my opinion on the gameplay, if it's fun or not. So yeah, let's get started and let's move right to the first part. The first part is already pretty simple. It consists of a simple block design with flashing squares, which are synced to the music. I think this is a pretty good block design, especially for this part of the song, which is a really simple part of the song, and I think it really works well. After the flashing squares, we get some double spike jumps, which I think aren't the best thing, but they fit in pretty well with the song, with that part of the song. What I meant with the double spikes is that the sound kind of matches. I'm probably gonna put some examples like how I think it matches. That like series of sounds kind of matches with how the spikes are revealed in that part, I guess you could say. Gameplay wise, I think it's pretty good. The whole level is somewhat sync based. I guess you could say, yeah, it is really sync based. But this part in particular, it is sync based. It's just not completely click sync. But I think it's a pretty fun part. Other than maybe the double spikes being a bit repetitive, I think it's a good part, personally. Moving on to the next part, I think we can already start to see how the level truly shines, pun intended, because this part has a bit of a metallic block design. It feels like metal. Another thing that I wanna mention is that a lot of parts in this level are actually like inspired by cover arts for Daft Punk's albums. For example, this specific part is inspired by the album Discovery, which, as we can see, has a bit of a metallic look, similar to the one that we see obviously in the level, even with the 3D blocks being rainbow. Discovery is also the album where the song that is used in the level comes from, so I think that's pretty cool. Also, another thing that I like is the fact that we can already see how the level kind of manipulates low opacity white blocks to make it seem somewhat like foggy, I guess you could say, just like the music video for the song, which it's like a good detail. It's not that big of a detail, but I think it does the level justice quite a bit. Also, just like the first part, we have intermissions with spikes, this time being triple spikes with a rainbow background, which seems to move, but it's actually just the hue shifting, you can see in the editor. Another thing that I think is like pretty smart from Jenkins is the metal effect, because it's not like a block design, you could say, it's just a masking effect that I guess looks like metal, but it isn't really actually made with like metallic looking GD blocks. It's just an overlay that kind of gives the illusion of metal, and I think that's actually a pretty smart thing to do. Gameplay wise, I think this part is pretty cool. It's also sync based, obviously, it's pretty sync based, but I think it's already a tad bit better than the first part gameplay wise, even though I don't really like the consecutive triple spikes jumps, simply because they're much more inconsistent than the double spike jumps. They're not really all that awful. I just personally think he could have kept the double spike jumps just as easily, but I guess it wouldn't have worked as well. Just personal opinion, honestly.
Work it, make it, do it, makes us harder, better, faster, stronger. More than power, power, never. Ever after work is over. Work it, make it, do it, makes us harder, better, faster, stronger.
Moving on to the next part, we have series of Minikube and Ball alternated. What I think is the best part about this part here is, other than the chromatic aberration we can see, is how like the background, I guess light you could say, is made. One thing that I wanna add real quick is that in the original recording I said that it looks like a light, a neon light behind a fog glass, but to me now it's more of like a TV lit up in a like dark room on a single like color, I guess you could say. I'm probably gonna put an image up just so you can understand better what I think. But yeah, my original thought about it, my original description is a bit stupid, I guess. It's a kind of realism that I think isn't too overdone, but it does what it's supposed to do really well, I think, personally. Also, the part of the glow is also on top of the player to give a similar like fog effect, I guess you could say, to the second part. Or I guess it's just a glow effect from the light shining behind, which is a really cool detail to add, because that's more realism, I guess. It looks more realistic. Gameplay wise, I think this is as good as the second part, maybe just a little bit less. I do like the ball parts in place of the triple spike jumps, which are a bit more easy and a bit more consistent. So I guess this part is a lot more balanced throughout. But yeah, I think it's a pretty good part gameplay wise. By the way, this one is inspired by the album Human After All. As you can see in the cover art for that album, it has the same light behind a fog glass, as I said. That's how I would say it, I guess. Yeah, that's all. Alright, so moving on to the next part, which is the fourth part, which is also, I guess you could say, it's the drop. This part is a really good part, I would say. First of all, I would like to add that before the fourth part, we have another intermission, I guess. That is like the first part, with the double spikes and the glow that kind of shoots up, you could say. The decoration for this part is inspired by the cover art for the album Homework, and I think this is a really good part. It sets the mood just right. It is one of the parts that really got me excited to see this level be done. It's what told me that this level was gonna be good, and you know, after all, I didn't even regret saying that it was gonna be good. I didn't even regret thinking that. I still think it's a really good level, and it's probably one of my favorite. And this part really shows why. It follows the same kind of style where it's synced gameplay, not really click sync. Although this part gets a lot closer to click sync than the other parts. And then after the synced part, we have a series, for example, this time of blue orb jumps with blue pads on top, which I don't know, it kind of seems like the triple spikes part, which is a bit inconsistent and a bit harder than the double spikes and ball parts. So I don't know. I don't hate it. I just don't think it's as consistent as some of the others. It has the same background effect as the ball and the triple spike jumps, having the rainbow effect that shifts you, making it look like it moves. I think this part is really cool. I like the kind of cartoony effect, I guess you could say, that it has. And yeah, I like the way the platforms kind of shift up and down. It's a nice touch. Also the background, the glow streaks in the background really make it feel a lot less empty, even though the level in general in terms of like air deco and stuff is pretty empty. But I don't think it's a bad thing overall. I think this level doesn't really need that much air deco. Just this effect, for example, by itself does it glory, quite a lot of glory. The part ends with a spider that has the same background rainbow effect as the blue orb clicks. I think it's a good effect. And yeah, gameplay wise, as I've said, the blue orb clicks are kinda annoying, but the rest of the part is really good. I think the sync is done really well and it's really fun to play overall. I think also the spider is pretty good because it's, I guess you could say it's click sync. It's not perfect click sync, but it's like, it's good enough that it's fun, but not such good like click sync that it's just bad to play, that it's boring to play. I think this is a really good part, probably one of the best of the whole level.
Work it harder, make it better, do it faster, makes us stronger, more than ever, hour after hour, work is never over. Work it harder, make it better, do it faster, makes us stronger, more than ever, hour after hour, work is never over. Work it harder, make it better, do it faster, makes us stronger, more than ever, hour after hour, work is never.
The next part is possibly the best part, or the second best part, because this part is really fucking beautiful. The effect in the block design is like extremely cool. I really liked the effect, which by the way is inspired by the album Alive 2007, and I think it's like, it just works so well. Like, if the blocks only really had a grid in them, this wouldn't have looked as good. Also, the kind of faint glow that matches the color of the moving grid, I guess you could say, it just works so well. It's such a good looking part. Also, the pulses are like really good, really satisfying. About the gameplay, yeah, this is pretty repetitive, but it just works. It is consistent, it's satisfying to do, it's so good. The part after that, which is the one with the dash orbs and vertically, I guess, the rotated slopes, which are not slopes really anymore. You're standing on the base of the slope. It's also really good. The gameplay is a bit less repetitive, you could say, and it's still same like block design effect, although the blocks themselves seem to be more like connected to the ground than in the last part, in the part right before, I guess you could say, and it still works really well. In the part after that, it's kind of a mix of both, you could say. They're both, the blocks in that part look like they're connected to the ground and to the ceiling, but they're all like slopes. These still have the same effect as the previous two parts, obviously, but it just works really well. Some people are gonna be like, oh, it has no air deco, but I think it just works by itself. This part does what it needs to do without needing air deco. It's a really good looking part, I will say, and it's probably either the second best, as I've said, either one of my favorite or straight up my favorite part of the whole level. It's like really good. The gameplay is pretty fun. It's all like this gameplay wise, it's one of the best parts in the level, although maybe the last part with all the orbs and the slopes that you need to jump off it's kind of janky. It's not as consistent as the other parts, but it's still a really fun part. It's really cool, visually speaking, like gameplay speaking. It's a really good part, and I think it's one of the reasons why I really love this level. So yeah, that's really what I think. to the next part is the contender for the best part, which, because this UFO part and ball part and then wave part is like really fucking cool. I just love this. The sync is on par, the deco is really cool, which is, by the way, inspired by the same album as the part before, which is Alive 1997. I just think it's so cool. It is one of the parts which only got like first shown when the full preview dropped, which is a few days ago, I think like 2 days ago. And I think this part just works so well. It's so simple, but it works so well. The background is really cool. The blocks themselves are really cool, and they work really well, both because of the like really good color choice, and also I guess somewhat because of the glow that comes off, also because of the 3D effect, you could say, yeah. And yeah, it's just a really good part. It's a part I really respect. Gameplay wise, as I said, the sync is on par. The last wave is really good because it's just the sync for the last wave part just works, because that's how it should, like, that's how it should have been done, and that's how it was done, and you know, it's good. Yeah, basically this part is probably the best. If I really were forced to like nominate one of the parts as the best, I think I would choose this one, because this is like definitely the best part, probably. The next part is a really good part, I will say. It's probably between the last UFO part and the drop part in terms of like quality, but it's a really good part. First of all, it's a break part, if it wasn't obvious, but it does it really well. It kind of feels the same as the break part in like Future Funk or the one in High Life and Low Death. It like works really well. I think this is a beautiful part. It's definitely not the best, but I think it does what it's supposed to do really well. I really like the pulses, I really like the appearing blocks, especially because that's like the cooler part of it. I really like the fact that when the blocks appear, there are beams of glow literally appearing on one of those blocks, I guess you could say. And I really also like the grid block that stays in the background for pretty much, I guess, the whole part, or at least the part where the blocks start appearing. That's a really cool effect, and that's really cool deco. I'm gonna say, gameplay wise, I don't think this is the best part gameplay wise, but it's definitely one of the better parts gameplay wise. Obviously the appearing blocks are kind of learny, I would say, but I think once you learn to play this part, it's a really fun part. Honestly, I think it's a really cool part, or at least personally I think it's a really cool part. I don't know what you will think, but this is what I think. It's a cool ass part. By the way, I thought this was inspired by another album cover, but it doesn't seem to be inspired by any album cover. So yeah, I don't know. Obviously I'm not like a die-hard Daft Punk fan. Obviously I like Daft Punk, but I'm not that big of a fan, so I don't really know the references all that well. I just look the album covers up to see which one corresponds to which part, and yeah, that's it.
Work it, make it better, do it faster, makes it stronger, that ever power. Work it, make it better, do it faster, makes it stronger, that ever power. Work it.
The next part is another really good looking part, I would say. It kind of takes on the same deco, or I guess effect, as the third part, the one where I said the light behind a foggy glass. Looking back at this part, I think it's more of a like TV effect than it is a light behind a fog glass. But yeah, this looks more like a lot of TVs kind of lighting up in different colors, like blue, green, yellow, red, white, and whatnot. And I also like really like the appearing blocks effect. I really like the way the blocks kind of like shrink and go up in size also. I think it's a really cool effect, and yeah, it fits in with the song a lot. Like it fits in with the kind of, I guess, jittery nature of this part of the song. I think it's a really well made part. This time too, this doesn't really need air deco, so, and it really doesn't have that much air deco, but as I just said, it doesn't really need it, honestly. It does well without needing the the air deco. I think this just does well by itself, honestly. Gameplay wise, this is one of the first parts that I've learned, especially because I'm obviously going back through the level from the end to the start, so I'm doing like runs from the last cube 200, last ship 200, other cube, and this is a really cool part once you learn it, because the sync is really good. It's not perfect click sync, but it's like the satisfying kind of sync that I really enjoy playing, and I really enjoy seeing in levels. I think this is a really cool type of sync, and I think it really does glory to the song, really. I also like the kind of light on top effect, the same kind of effect that was in the third part, where the light from behind, from the TV, I guess you could say, kind of seems to shine onto the cube and give it a bit of glare. It's a really cool touch that makes the like TV screens also more believable. Also the glow on top and on the bottom also helps make it a lot more believable and helps it kind of fit in a lot better than just having a big square with glow inside. It like really helps, in my opinion. We are on to the last part, which is, it's a really good part, I will say. It's probably better than the second part. I will explain why I compared it to the second part, like really shortly. It starts with the dates from where, you know, Daft Punk was obviously a duo. So it's from 1993, which is when they started, and 2021, which is when they kind of just split up and went their own way, I guess you could say. And I think it's a really nice touch. I think it really adds to the level in a nice way. The reason why I compared it to the second part is because it kind of has the same like metallic effect, just this time in the 3D blocks. The like 3D blocks aren't rainbow, they're the same color as the main block, which by the way isn't just like silver type metals. This time it's both like silver and gold, which is another really nice touch, because those obviously are the colors of the two members of Daft Punk. It's a really nice touch, I think. This cover art, this part is obviously, since it's similar to the second part, it's inspired by the album Discovery, and I think this is a really good part. Deco-wise, it's a really good part. It does what it needs to do really well, especially with the kind of glare effect that makes it look like the music video, and it works really well, I think. The gameplay itself is also really good. Maybe the ship part isn't really the best part ever in the level, but the cube part works because it's kind of like the second part. Although this is more click sync than anything, which I don't really like too much, but this is like click sync that is done, I guess, really well. This also has not too much air deco, but as I've said, for the rest of the level, which is kind of getting repetitive, it doesn't really need air deco, honestly. I'm gonna kind of get to the point of why I made this video, because yesterday this level got released, I believe, yeah, yesterday. and it was uploaded on the Twitter account Geometry Dash today, and it kind of just got shat on, like a lot, by people, calling it empty and calling it bad, calling the song bad. And I kind of want to talk about all those things. First of all, shitting on the level without really giving any actual feedback, I think it's a really shitty thing to do. First of all, because like, how is the creator supposed to improve on that if you don't really give them feedback? It's one thing that has always bugged me, like when I built, is people just calling my stuff bad and not giving me real feedback. And I think, how do I put it? I just think, like, if you really wanna adjust the level either positively or negatively, I think it's really cool also to hear why you think it's good or why you think it's bad. Personally, I think it's cool because it represents the song really well, and it represents the music video, it represents Daft Punk's albums really well. It does glory to Daft Punk in a really good way, other than like in a way that no other level probably could have. If this was just the usual like glow style level, like glow corporate style, it would have been pretty boring. Okay, cool, that's good deco, but like, it doesn't really do glory to the song personally. So I think I'm really glad that it was made, like, that this level was made by someone who knows like what he's doing and knows how to do it really, and put actual thought into each part of the level to make it feel like a Daft Punk inspired level. Also, I don't know, like, obviously calling the song bad, I guess it's fair enough, the song is pretty repetitive, but I think really the reason why a lot of people, me included, like the song is simply for nostalgia factors, and also for the fact that Daft Punk is quite possibly one of the most influential like EDM, I guess, duo. It's probably one of the few important EDM duos, and they're quite possibly the most influential people in the EDM genre. They're like really important people, and they did really, really good songs. They made really good songs, honestly, which are repetitive, but they do it really well. They are repetitive, but in a really good way. For example, me personally, I think the biggest nostalgia factor for me is simply just the flip note. If you don't know what it is, Flipnote was an application to make stop motion, like animations, I guess, on the DS, and it was also ported on the 3DS, but I get the DSi one. It wasn't the DS one. The DS didn't really have any apps, you would say. And on Flipnote, there was this, like, I guess you could say, really famous animation with that song as its song, and it kind of stuck with me. It's like probably the first time I ever heard the song, and since then it has stuck with me because it's such a catchy song. Other than that, People say it's empty. I think it doesn't really need to be full, and no level really needs to be full. I think really how a level needs to be just judged. To judge a level, you kind of need to look at its artistic value. You don't just need to look at, oh, it's empty, it has no air deco. I think you need to look at what the intentions of the creator were. For example, a lot of people like criticize Slaughterhouse for being the red hell level top 1. But really, that's what Ice Cave wanted to do, and that's what the level was meant to be. I don't obviously it's not the best level ever. The deco is kind of janky, I guess you could say. I don't know how to put it, especially because the creators involved in Slaughterhouse had a big glow up after Slaughterhouse, and I think it's really sad that they made their parts before they started becoming really known as the really good creators. But Slaughterhouse, the idea behind Slaughterhouse is done well. I think the Red Hell level with the I don't know how to demonic song, I guess, the screams, all the stuff, it represents the song very well in my opinion, and it's a good level in what it does. Same with Grief. Grief is not trying to be something like, I don't know, let's say for example Limbo. It's not trying to be Limbo, it's trying to be a sequel, or I guess a prequel to Slaughterhouse, the newer version obviously. And it does what it needs to do really well. The deco is really cool, the gameplay obviously I don't think it's really good, but I mean it's Ice Cave's choice to make the gameplay be that. But I think the deco looks really cool, and that's what I mean by artistic value. It's we don't need to compare two levels. For example, compare, I don't know, Limbo, as I've said, to Acheron. It doesn't make sense, because Acheron is made to be Acheron, while Limbo is made to be Limbo. A memory level with really colorful deco, it's supposed to be something unique. Acheron was not really made to be something unique. It wasn't really made to be a Tartarus sequel at first, but it kind of just ended up being a Tartarus spin-off, I guess you could say. And it does what it needs to do pretty well. Same with Limbo, it does what it needs to do really, really well. But they are not two levels that you can compare, because they're trying to do different things, and that's kind of what I think is wrong with the GD community's ability to give feedback to people. They don't know how to give feedback, and they don't know which levels you can compare fairly and which levels you can't really compare fairly. Yeah, that's really all I can say. I kind of stretched it out a bit with this part about the GD's community's inability, I guess I could say, to give decent feedback to creators, especially newer ones. But I think people are being too harsh to this level, or at least that's what I think. I think this level does what it needs to do really well, and people are just being harsh to it because it's not something I don't know, Mayhem or Cosmos or something glow-based made by some team. It's meant to be Jenkins level, which is inspired by Daft Punk's works, and I think it does it really well. I think it's really cool, honestly. So I don't know, I guess think what you wanna think, but I just think it's kind of stupid to compare this level to other mainstream levels. Yeah, that's really all from me. I think this is all I wanna say about the level and about the GD community. I think really this is it. So yeah, bye, I guess, I don't know.